my only experience of the the fashion industry in Asia has actually been from not followers so much, but people who perhaps admire my work, people who've read my book, people who inquire about my courses that I run, and there's a fair amount of them, this is my only real experience of the growth of fashion in Asia. I know that fashion in India is specifically quite big industry, but it's not an area that I've actually looked at as in closely as a market for me as a fashion photographer. But I'm sure as a young photographer or an experimenting photographer, there's lots of potential. I've no idea what the fee structure is, I've no idea if it will be commercially viable, but everybody that's in the fashion industry needs pictures, and every photographer has that sort of opportunity to be able to look at this industry and say, right, okay, I'm going to develop myself as a fashion photographer in an Asian country, and I'm sure they can actually make a good living at it. You can't measure these things against the sort of major fashion cities of the world like London, Paris, New York, etc. But it is a growing market, and I'm sure if you actually look into it, you'll find that there's actually a potential to actually earn a good living at doing it in Asia. If you're already there, that is. Yeah? For me to actually go and shoot in let's say for instance India, I get a few inquiries from people about me shooting collections in India, and I'm used to earning I'm used to a certain fee structure based on me working out of London, and if I actually explained to the buyers of photography in fashion companies in India, for instance, they would probably fall off the chair if I explained how much my fees would be. So I don't look at that area of the industry, so perhaps you can do some research yourself to find out, because you only have to look at okay, the magazine stores, for instance, in your own hometown will have images in those magazines, specifically the fashion magazines, and also they'll have fashion trade fairs occurring, and the people who are manufacturing fashion have to have pictures, either to use for advertising or to use for their catalogues or to use for PR. So research these things. We have it in England, we have trade fairs, we have Moda, we have Pure, we have the bridal trade fairs, we have the underwear and swimwear trade fairs, which are actually areas that I've actually I actually pick up my clients from these things, or I go and research my clients at these trade fairs. They're there to sell to their to the various different other independent stores or the big stores or whatever it is. So it's a big open market. I mean, we have maybe 400, 500, 600 different companies attending Pure Fashions in London, and I'm sure that when you have a big fashion trade fair in your own home major city, or so these are places you should be researching. Are these trade fairs happening? And go and have a look and see what type of companies are exhibiting there, and if their photography needs you. Yeah, so it's not really a question I can answer specifically. I don't have that much experience of it, but when I think about, I'm now shooting for, or have been shooting for the last 4 days, for an Asian company from Hong Kong. I guess that's an Asian company, so so it's there, and they're paying me a reasonable fee for my trip, otherwise I wouldn't be here. So so research it yourself. It's in your own country. You should be able to go and find out the information to answer that question yourself. But I do definitely know that the markets in most Asian countries are certainly growing, and most definitely in places like China, most definitely in places like Taiwan, most definitely in places like India, and so go and research it.
Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.